The boy's a lawyer. Hey, the girl on fire. That boy's a cop. And you know that being a rap. You don't know that song?
No.
It's Ice Spice.
I don't think she sings it that way.
She says
she sings it like a show tune.
She says that boy is a cop. Tell me on map. Tell me on cop.
I unfollowed Ice Spice on IG.
Too much.
Go ahead.
Why?
I just feel like if you're only selling one thing, like it makes me dumber.
She seems like a really nice girl.
Maybe, but she doesn't show it. She only shows one angle of her always, and I'm just like, I don't need that on my timeline all the time.
I do need that on my timeline all the time. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Who do you follow long term?
I like Koi. I think Koi LeRae, even though she, shows off herself a lot, she'll be showing her dancing. She'll be like showing clips of her talking. Like you get to see kind of, I feel like the whole spectrum of Koi.
Versus Ice Spice, you're like, she's just always showing her butt.
Yeah, it's just like another. I unfollow Ruby Rose, same shit.
Yeah, I don't follow her.
Even though I think Ruby Rose is gorgeous, but yo, Ruby, did you see her shit that she was going through?
Yeah, with DDG?
And your girl.
Why you say my girl?
Halle. You said you thought Halle was better than Chloe.
I mean, I think they're beautiful, but I also feel like they're plants. I feel like they're industry plants. Mainly because they're like church girls that are trying to be sexy.
Right. Well, so is Beyonce at a certain point. But, Chris, you hear about what's going on with the whole Ruby Rose, DDG, all that kind of stuff?
Oh, yeah.
You saw that?
I really don't think Chris knows who these people are. So I'll feel you.
Yeah,
I'll feel you. So Halle is going to be playing.
Show, by the way.
Yeah.
Hold on. The boy's a liar.
Oh my god.
Yo, this is Kerbin Johnston right there.
Sunil.
And right there.
Juan Valdez.
That's it. So, welcome to the Men on the Internet podcast. Today, we're going to be chatting and rapping all about today's hottest gossip. We're the gossip girls. So,
no, I do not subscribe to that. That is not how.
Why?
Huh?
Why?
Because I don't identify as a female or a girl.
Okay, I was going to say. There's definitely a different. Yo, people say it's rude to call women females. You heard that?
I think it just depends on the female.
Oh my goodness.
That was immediate.
Sunil. All right. So I'll explain it to you as if you're the people.
Yes.
So people. Halle is the new Little Mermaid.
Yes.
So she's the black girl that's playing.
Halle
Bailey. Halle Bailey.
Halle Bailey. Halle Bailey.
Okay. She is dating a YouTuber named DDG.
He's not a YouTuber.
Yeah, he is.
Is he? I thought he was a rapper.
He's a YouTuber turned rapper.
Okay.
You didn't know that?
I thought he was more. I only knew him for his rap.
No, so he became a rapper, but he's a YouTuber. So he's a YouTuber, and he was like dealing with the industry girls before, and then now he got with Halle, who is like a nice, she's coming out with a Disney movie. So she's like,
and
nice,
they used to be on Disney, right? Chloe and Halle, weren't they?
They were on.
They were singers.
Adultish. They're on Adultish with thank you.
Adultish.
No, they're on Adultish.
That's a show. Grownish. But also, didn't they have like some kind of affiliation with Disney?
That is a Disney. It's a Freeform show.
Oh, okay.
And Freeform is Disney.
Okay, got you. That's what I.
Yeah, it used to be ABC Family. Right. So yeah, so they're like squeaky
wholesome.
Yeah, they're wholesome girls, except for the older sister, or maybe I don't know if she's the younger sister, but the other sister who like shows her butt all the time, like she's more trying to like
that's Chloe
distance herself.
Chloe Bailey.
And this is the more wholesome sister. So she's dating this guy who like he's a YouTuber, but he's a little like he's got more frayed edges, as I would say.
Kind of when you move this, it's rocking that.
My bad. So yes, so she's dating this guy. And his past is starting to creep up on her. So, a girl he used to deal with, named Ruby Rose, posted a picture of her in a shirt and said, "Oh, I essentially like you shouldn't be having me and your current girl wearing the same outfit." and the same clothing or whatever. Now, apparently, this is the same time period when DDG had unfollowed and perhaps even blocked Haley on social media. So people thought they.
Oh, I didn't know that part.
Yes, so they broke up and nobody explained why. And DDG tweeted like, all these girls is the same, you know, like a girl. And so Ruby Rose did that, and then he came out, and it turns out that like he had assumed some stuff, you know, what assuming does, makes an ass out of you and me.
Correct.
So him and the girl were just kind of like getting back together. Then Ruby Rose came out of nowhere and said, oh yeah, like he was DMing me and blah, 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 assuming that it is within the time when DDG and Haley broke up. So she said, anytime you argue with your girl, he had to DM her on Twitter. He said, anytime you argue with your girl, you come running back to me. He DM'd her on Twitter because he has her blocked on everything else. And she exposed the tweet DMs. Now, the response that Haley Gave was, y'all be blessed. I'm not exactly sure if it's Haley or Haley.
It's got to be Haley.
I almost feel like it's
Because it's
Haley.
Bailey. Haley.
Haley Bailey.
No, I think it's Haley.
Okay, Haley Bailey. Miss Bailey.
So she said,
So she was like, y'all be blessed. Everything's fine.
Nah, she posted, and then she also posted greatest Valentine's ever.
That came right afterwards. So I think
with Senor
DDG.
G.
I
Yeah.
don't know. Did she post a picture?
Yeah, I think it was with them. So they're good. So
That's what they
so
say. They're
just
probably
to-
arguing in the back.
maybe. But so Ruby Rose is actually like a pretty popular Instagram kind of. She's a rapper, but she's more known for just being like a really nice looking girl. She has an OnlyFans, like stuff like that. Okay. She's not really known for her music. Let's just put it that way. Kind of like how Saweetie is, you know, like she put out an album, only sells like maybe like a couple thousand, but
150.
but they have millions and millions of followers on IG kind of thing. But so like what the story then became is who's handling this situation better. Like it's a very stark contrast between two different women that carry themselves two separate ways. Like you have Ruby Rose over here that's been caught up in a lot of scandals with men, kind of been dogged out by guys, and continues kind of down the same path as far as exposing, very confrontational, all out in the public type of situation, versus Haley, who kind of everything was on the down low behind closed doors and came out looking extremely classy in this situation. And Ruby Rose thought she had one and then ended up being dogged out at the end of the day, I think.
So I'm going to say this one thing, and I don't have too much to say about this, but I think that women who try to expose men on the internet for like being in their DMs or something like that, unless it's something that's really salacious or like something really inappropriate, for the most part, I just don't see why. Like, why? Just handle your business privately.
Attention. It's just
you know what I mean?
attention.
It's attention, but
That's
it's
all
just
it
like, where did this even come from?
Right.
You know, why? And I've seen recently a lot of women, this is not like a new thing, but I see people like exposing text messages, you know, and it's like, we don't know who this guy is. Like, we don't know we don't understand. Like, we're missing context.
Right.
So why? You know, and I think maybe Ruby Rose felt like she ain't had attention in the past week or couple months since Ice Spice came and snatched up all the attention, because Lord knows I'm giving her some attention.
It really is all about Kelby at this point. Ruby Rose has been like, my likes have been down, and it's specifically not Kelby that's been sending me.
Yeah, I mean, I got 11 accounts. So I understand that it's for attention, but like, why?
Get over it.
And the thing that like kind of was extra too is then you started seeing Ruby post a lot of this, like, oh my god, like she's so happy, and her like, oh, guys treat me this way, you know, like it's kind of like, dude, you look really, really just bad. Like it looks like you're fake, like you're forcing this too much. And I don't want to put it that it's just women that do it. I think that any person that's trying to embarrass somebody over the internet or embarrass somebody out in like public, I just found that corny. It's like, yo, like all it shows is that you don't respect that person, that you really didn't care for him, or you're just immature as hell, or a combination of all that kind of stuff. It's just corny behavior. And at the end of the day, like, you know, that stuff never goes away. Like
never
it's
does.
the internet's
It really
forever. So like, think about it. Maybe right now in your 20s, you're like, oh, this is cool. And when you're 40 and all of a sudden all these things start coming back, you know, you're gonna be like, it's always gonna be there. And the thing that I think about is, man, like, eventually you're gonna have kids.
Wait, is Ruby Rose the Australian lady?
No,
Nah, that's Iggy
that's
Azalea.
what happened. No. There's Ruby Rose, the model.
Well,
Yeah,
this
no.
Ruby Rose is a model too.
Wait, which?
I mean, come on.
She's a light-skinned black girl.
Yeah.
That's not
R-U-B-I, R-U-B-I, not R-U-B-Y. Yeah.
I had trouble finding it too because once I landed on the Australian model page, I was like, I don't think she would be involved with DDG.
Why?
She's a lesbian.
Oh, yeah. That could be it.
Oh, the Ruby Rose.
Yeah.
The
She's a
royal.
beautiful woman. Like I think Ruby Rose is very, very attractive.
Would you do him?
I think Ruby Rose is more attractive than Ice Spice.
Okay. I don't.
But then once again, same type of personality that is just like not attractive to me.
Ice Spice has everything. She's so nice in
Is she?
interviews.
Isn't she with? Is she going on a date with I Show Speed?
Nah, that's for the internet. The internet is saying that Ice Spice and Lil TJ got a little something going on. But listen, I'm done with the spicy talk. Okay, I'm done getting my nails done.
You the one that said you wanted to have girl talk.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, girl. What else we talking about? What you think, Ruby Rose?
She's pretty.
Yeah.
But I did just also look up Ice Spice.
Yeah.
I thought she was cute too.
You come on now. Ice Spice do it different a little bit.
Yeah, you guys can have her.
Thanks.
I was like, granted, I don't know anything about.
Yeah. All right. Well, now that we've done spilt the tea,
Tea.
what else we got?
Yeah. I recently we were talking about Ralph Barbosa and
Yes.
his podcast with Andrew Schultz and Flagrant. I know, Chris, you were saying that you had watched the podcast with the goats of Mexican comics. Who was on it? It was George Lopez.
It was his podcast.
Right.
Oh, it's George Lopez's podcast?
Yeah.
Oh.
But he had a couple of
It was
pretty big comics on there.
Yeah, it was a TikTok and a guy, somebody else was commenting on that he said that.
But I think the original podcast was obviously George Lopez. I think Paul Rodriguez, was on there.
No, Paul wasn't because him and.
Oh, they were.
beefing.
Yeah. Who was the guy though? I forget the guy's name. Yeah, there's two other comics on there, and I think they started talking about just the new like Latin comics up and coming, and then George Lopez kind of goes on.
Yeah,
Right?
the guy was talking about Ralph, and George was like, "Well, who the fuck cares?" Like,
Yeah.
he's
Oh,
not-
really? That's how George did it?
Yeah.
I stand with George.
It's wild though. And then apparently he was talking about Paul and saying that Paul used to treat him like shit.
Who's
like,
Paul?
Paul Rodriguez.
is
He's another famous
comedian.
comedian.
Okay, okay.
He was, around the same time as George coming up. I think
Okay.
he was a little bit before George. Saying that Paul treated him like trash. Like, he used to call him up on stage just to give him his jacket to take it off stage. Like, petty shit like that. And
Damn.
Paul went out and was like, that's a bald-faced lie. Like, I've never done anything like that in my life. Like, what are you doing? So it was kind of interesting just the way that George was, like, burning bridges. And then the guy that I saw was commenting, like, why are you bringing these people down? Why are you bringing your own culture down? Like, why does it have to be only one Hispanic comic, only one Latino king of comedy? You know what I mean? And it didn't make sense because he used to be on the Latin Kings of Comedy
Right.
Roadshow.
George Lopez?
George Lopez. He used to show up with the lineup.
I think he's probably the biggest, right? Him and Cheech and Chong are probably the biggest, at least OG like Mexican
stand-up
comedians.
like that.
Yeah.
I didn't even know.
Cheech
there was
doesn't even
Mexican.
do stand up like that, really. He's like just a movie celebrity.
But I think George Lopez did help out some,
Sure.
But he
yeah.
also is very competitive when
But
it
for
came
him
to that.
like kick everybody
Right.
off the cliff, you know what I mean? It's like, relax, like, you're good,
Yeah. So, anyways, Ralph Barbosa. You've heard of?
I've heard of Ralph Barbosa.
Yeah. So I'm a big fan. I think he's like.
You're a big fan.
Yeah. I follow him on Instagram. That's very, very high level if you're getting followed on Instagram by me.
Because I will unfollow.
I will unfollow people if you don't. Yeah, I just unfollowed Ice Spice.
Come on now.
That's
So,
crazy to me.
and that's your queen. So
Don't do that.
the way you be caping for Ice Spice though, she different
seems
for
like
you.
a nice
she
girl.
different. She different for you. But anyways, so he kind of got the brunt of it.
Yeah.
But you know, it was like, who is this kid? And then he's kind of like, do you know this kid? Do you know this kid? You know what I mean? Like, so that kind of, I guess, got Barbosa. And then Ralph Barbosa is the type that he made a video out of it, and he was just like, fuck George Lopez, you know what I mean? And
he did. He called him
yeah,
out?
well, so he went on this Flagrant show, right? And he was talking about it because Andrew brought it up, and he was just like, to be honest, like, whenever people would say, oh, you're the next George Lopez, he'd be like, people would be at my shows telling me, oh, you're gonna be the next George Lopez. And he's just like, his reaction even before George Lopez said all this stuff was just like, fuck George Lopez. But he would say that about anybody. If they're like, oh, you're the next Carlos Mencia, he'd be like, fuck Carlos. You know what I mean? Like, just as a joke. Like, to him, it didn't mean anything. And I guess, you know, when they asked him, he's like, he didn't see it as like disrespect. He saw it more just like they were just performing for the podcast type of thing. Yeah, it could have been anybody's name. Like, any young comic would have been there. He would have had the same reaction. It was just, they said Ralph Barbosa because he's like I think probably the one that's gaining the most steam recently. Okay. But he said that George Lopez called him and apologized and all that kind of stuff. And Ralph Barbosa even said, look, like, I don't connect with George Lopez's comedy like that. To him, it's just like, he thinks it's very too stereotypical type stuff, because he's like a different generation, right? George Lopez is in his 50s. This kid's 26 years old. So like, when George Lopez came out with comedy, he was the only real like Mexican comedian there, and like, he was kind of exposing to the world like what Mexican culture was and stuff like that. 30 years later, when Ralph Barbosa's coming, he's just like, all right, everybody knows this, so this is just like not funny anymore. So
what's crazy to me is George Lopez is 61.
61, yeah.
Because when I see George Lopez with white hair, gray hair, it almost like makes me feel like I'm old too. Right. Because the way I used to watch the George Lopez show, I mean, I spoke with a George Lopez accent for a year.
Oh, so he was real culturally appropriating.
He didn't start with that accent. When he started comedy, he was like this. He was talking like this, and then bringing up random, analogies to Mexican culture. It wasn't until he started getting bigger that he started. Okay, I'm like.
So
which one was real though?
He's the Hispanic Chris Rock.
I guess.
Because Chris Rock's big thing is his voice.
Yeah.
But what do you think is real? The accent is real, or him trying to whitewash himself was real? Like, do you think he was whitewashing himself to be able to be kind of get into these comedy clubs and stuff like that, and then he went back to how he naturally is? I think it'd probably be more that, because back when he was starting out, obviously I don't think it was easy for any kind of minority comedian to be able to get on stage, so he probably had to change some of the things that he did, change his act and all that kind of stuff till he gained enough power to be able to do what he wants to do.
As an Afro Latino,
go ahead. We cousins.
What are you laughing at?
You're Afro Latino.
I'm trying to tell him.
Why can't I laugh?
Are you Afro Latino?
No.
He's not even.
I'm 100% Indian.
He's not even Afro.
Or Latino.
But you kind of look like. Play a song. We'll find out what you are. Should I stand with George Lopez, man? He don't need to help nobody.
I mean, he doesn't.
I think that's the big thing.
And like Sunil said, it probably was just, we're just talking shit.
Talking shit. It is a comedian's podcast. But do you think, because Kelby, we can't talk about this because you have been pretty strong on this show about how people, especially in black culture, right, in Hollywood and in the industry, have to maybe not directly help out, but at least be aware of the doors that you're opening and closing for the next generation, right? Yeah. So to say, you're saying, well, does he really need to help out? Well, if you go out there and clown on a young comedian, if they don't know how to handle that, I think Ralph Barbosa handled it well, like going out there, making a joke of it and all that kind of stuff. But maybe that could have been something
that killed his career.
Maybe if he doesn't know how to handle it, if he's immature about it, or is insecure in himself, like it could be something that's detrimental. I'm sure we've seen that in the past, like where a bigger name comedian has like done something that kind of made another comedian insecure, and then they're not able to perform the same way or whatever.
So here's what I have to say. Realistically, I think it's always a great story. It's good news to hear your favorite person in the entertainment industry is like helping other people. They're extending their hands and they're making all that good gushy stuff, right? But ultimately, it's the same thing of like, don't meet your heroes, because I don't depend, and I wouldn't depend on a bigger person to give me a cosign or to say that I believe in you or to help me or anything like that. But if it does happen, it's like, damn, not only are you good at what you do, you're a good person. But I don't really expect people who have been famous for X amount of years, who've had that many failed shows, so many good popular shows as George Lopez, to turn around and help the next generation. Like, there's a certain point when people start feeling themselves, especially at George Lopez's age, where he's like on the decline, realistically.
Right.
Like, he had his peak years on that show. He'd been trying to remake the show 11 times. It done failed 38 times. He got a new show with his daughter. 2 people watch it. It's just like, he's on the down. Like, he don't got not a single black hair on the top of his
but
head.
does that
And so
give
now
you...
he's like, now he's even more remembering, like, I used to have a show on ABC. I used to be the man. Like, he's fighting realistically.
So you co-sign the salt.
Listen. I'm saying, like, he's fighting realistically against Ralph Barbosa, because this now his enemy. He wants to keep showing that he's that guy. So I've heard enough about George Lopez, about the way he treated his ex-wife, the one who gave him the kidney or whatever, all of that stuff, to be like, I have to remember to separate the talent and the person. It's always dope when somebody extends their hand to lift you up so you can get to the top of the ladder too, but don't expect it, because these people have egos and these people are fragile, especially comedians. People that make the room laugh, those are the people that cry the most. So don't expect it. So am I going to stand with him? Probably. Because I love George Lopez. That's a part of my childhood.
Right.
But at the same time, like, am I going to really stand with him as a person?
Yeah, but I also think there's a difference between necessarily needing to pull somebody up, co-sign somebody, and then just totally try to just shit on them. Like, there's a difference. Like, he could have been like, oh, I don't know about this kid. I wish him best of luck.
Well, Dave Chappelle kind of does that from time to time.
Yeah, but I don't think you need to go out of your way to be like, who is this guy? Who is that guy? Fuck him. Like, all that kind of stuff. Like, to me, that obviously it could have just been kind of like playing, just like risen it up for the camera or whatever. But the fact that he had to call privately to apologize means that obviously it played a certain way on camera. It sounded like hate, sounded like salt, sounded like the old man curmudgeon, get off of my lawn type of thing. Yeah. And I think that there should be I think as the older generation that we grew up watching starts to age, they do need to be aware of the way that it comes off, because at the end of the day, do we think that he needs to be like, yeah, Ralph Barbosa, bring him on shows, and hey, he's the next up and coming? No, like, if you don't know the kid, you don't need to know the kid. So but you could just be like, yeah, I never heard of him. I wish him the best of luck.
But that's what I'm saying.
I ain't gonna do nothing for him, but like, wish him best of luck versus like try to clown him. Have you heard of him? But nobody's heard about him. Like,
that's what I'm saying. His ego is in there, because he's remembering when people were saying like, you heard about George Lopez.
Sure,
he used to be on top.
Get over it.
Fighting it.
Get over it.
But before people get over it, before people heal, they gotta get hurt. So he's showing
clearly
his hurt.
He been hurting.
Yeah, he been hurting.
Go to therapy.
I told you the man's had 11 shows fail, and he's been trying to remake the same show. I was just watching that show all by Classic. Anyways, we
I
still
haven't watched
George.
one episode.
You ever
What?
watched the George episode?
Nah, never, not once.
Oh, that's good.
I wasn't big into TV for a long time.
That makes sense.
Yeah, I didn't have cable for a long, long time. All through my college years, so I didn't really know too much about the TV shows.
What year did you go to college?
Go ahead.
What year did you go to college?
2001 to 2005, and then
That's
all through like growing up, I didn't like all through working and stuff. I never paid for cable, so
Those are the George Little Pistols, like 2002 to 8 or something like that. Yeah. Anyways, what were you saying?
Oh,
how do you feel about it though? You the representative of the Latino Chicano culture here. How's it playing? How's it playing in the culture?
That was going to be my question: does the Indian people support Indian people, or is there a lot of like, oh, I'm better or whatever it is? Because like Latinos, as a culture, we get along, but there's a lot like there's this weird. I don't even know where the stigma comes from, but Mexicans and Salvadorians sometimes don't get along. I personally don't support that because I love.
Because you're not in a gang.
I have a lot of family members. Well, that too. I have a lot of family friends that are Salvadorian. They're awesome, wonderful people.
Yeah.
But just like the Indian cultures or anything like that like
North and South.
So I mean, there's definitely like tribalism, but so I don't know so much about Indians in Hollywood because I don't know that culture that I'm not in it. But I could tell you like one of the strengths of the Indian culture is like we have this. I don't know if you've ever heard the term desi. So desi is it means our own. So like you would call anybody that looks Indian, they could be Pakistani, they could be Bangladesh, like that whole region, you'd call them desi. Like we look alike, all that kind of stuff. And like desi people usually help each other. So like one of the reasons why Indian Americans or Hindu Americans or however they are one of the most well off people in this country is because we pool our resources. Like, so if one person gets like a motel and learns the industry and all that kind of stuff, he's gonna put all his family on, friends on, all that kind of stuff to be able to do that. Like we lift everybody up. It's not like competition as much. It's like, so for example, I could tell you, I met this like millionaire surgeon when I was working at the bank, and he was also in like Bollywood and all that kind of stuff. And immediately, just because I was Indian and the way that I treated him, like we call him uncle, I call him uncle, even though he was in a bank, I was treating him like we were just like Indians, like, oh, uncle, how could I help you? All this kind of stuff. That became Desi, and then he got my cell phone number. He would call me directly, invite me to events. He was trying to like set me up with girls because he's like, oh, you're of marrying age and all that kind of stuff. So it's like you'll do all of that from just a stranger because we're the same culture. Nice. So I think that's very in the Indian culture. I know that's like, I don't know if that's so much in other culture, but Asian cultures I think is big. Like Chinese help Chinese out, Japanese help
part of the Indian culture.
Sri Lanka is similar. I mean, like they're it's same region and everything like that. But yeah, I would say they are to a certain extent.
So that's a no. So
well, it's more of a Christian country and a Buddhist country.
Do Desi people got a head nod?
I don't know.
Because you know how black people see each other, they like, all right. You know what I mean? They recognize each other. Yeah. You have the black man head nod. And when they don't do it back to you, they're like, oh, okay, you ain't kinfolk. So. Yeah,
I don't know. I haven't. There's something, but I don't know if it's the head nod. It's like, but there's a connection, like, I remember I used to, like, back in when I was younger and stuff, or when I was in college or outside of being with my family, I'd be like, at the mall with my friends or whatever, and then I always point out, oh, there's my uncle, there's my cousins, any Indian, like it's just fun. Or like we'd make fun, like my best friend, he was like my cousin, he's Indian too, and it would be like, who's the first to be like, oh, there's your aunt, like like we could definitely like pick out the Indians, and that would be like a thing of like picking out people from the same culture.
Have you are on average Indian men attracted to only Indian women?
You asking the wrong person.
On average,
I don't know. I don't know if attraction as much as forced. right? So I think that Indian men are attracted to I think men are attracted to all beautiful women, right?
Yeah, I see their comments online.
And look, there's unfortunately, when it came to like To Catch a Predator,
Oh, shoot.
Bay Area version, dude,
Oh
my people were down bad.
Really?
Yeah, it was all
no.
like. So here's the thing. Here's one thing, and look, I'm not trying to speak for all Indians, so let's preface this like, you know, if you chop this up, make sure you preface this not me speaking on behalf of all Indians, but
So not all 1 billion, just like maybe 500 million.
yeah, maybe. Okay. So let's. So in India, it was very taboo to date. Like, for example, my mom and my dad never had any type of relationship with anybody outside of them, and they only knew each other for 4 hours before they decided to get married. And so like that, but that was kind of what it was. There was no dating. There was no like relationships outside of your marriage. The relationship that you're in is going to be marriage. Usually in their in their time, the mom and your families are helping with that decision. It's not just out of love or whatever it is. So that's still prevalent there, where it's very cultural. Like dating is very taboo and all this kind of stuff. So if you're not dating, if you're not doing all that kind of stuff, you're just focused on education and taking care of your family and all that kind of stuff, you don't learn the riz. You don't learn the game. You're not able to hone in those skills on how to talk to women and how to like be confident in those arenas. So then these Indian men of age are coming over to the US with all of these tech jobs, right? So they're coming in, but they're very sheltered, and now they're coming to the US with nothing but opportunity and without any game. So the problem becomes now, and look, most of the jobs they're coming for they're making a lot of money, like, you know, they're tech jobs, they're doing well, all that kind of stuff, without much training. So unfortunately, like, their hormones are already, because they think America's a certain way from the movies and how the women are, because that's all they know, right? And then, you know, it could go bad. Let's just put it that way.
There was a guy I worked with. He was an older guy.
Yeah.
And I don't quite remember what he was, so I'm going to ask you the question I asked him. So his wife passed away.
Okay.
And I remember asking him, are you going to remarry? And he said, I can't. I'm married to my wife until I die, even though she's dead. Is that how Indian people think?
How old is he?
He might have been 80.
Yeah, at that age, you ain't supposed to be thinking about sex.
No, but his wife had died like maybe 10 years before.
Yeah, so he was 70. Nobody's getting remarried at that age.
Some people are.
In our culture.
Oh, in your culture.
Yeah.
But is that like his way of thinking?
No, because I have an aunt who was probably late 20s, early 30s when her husband passed away, and she got remarried.
Okay.
And she actually got remarried to her husband, my uncle at this point, through marriage. He had been divorced.
Oh, wow.
He had 3 kids with his previous marriage. My aunt had her son, my cousin, from a previous marriage, and she was married to my uncle that passed away. He was in the military in India, and he died through military stuff. And so she was still young, had a young kid. Like my cousin was only 1 year old at the time. Wow. This was before I was born. So like the families were like, no, we need to make that happen. Yeah, get her married, make sure that she has, because marriage in India at that time is not about love. It's about making sure that your kids are set and well off and stuff like that.
So your parents were arranged?
Kind of. So like my dad moved to the US, got situated and settled, got a good job, bought a house, and then he did a 2-week trip to India with the purpose of finding his wife. Wow. So like he had they put the word out, and like so the family set up like multiple meetings. And so like my dad told me like he told his mom, he's like, look, I'll meet anybody you want me to meet, but if I come back and say no, I don't want any pushback or questions or all that kind of stuff. So he probably met like 8-10 women at that time. And he actually said no to everybody. And then last minute, like my mom's sister and my dad's sister were friends, but my mom, she used to work for Air India at the time, so she was on her way back from Italy. And so they were like, my dad was about to leave to go back to the US. So this was like his last day. So they were like, oh, you know, I think, you know, my sister, like they got together like, oh yeah, my brother's looking for somebody. Oh, my sister is of marriage age and all that kind of stuff. But she's coming back and he's about to leave. So they like got it together. So my mom comes back from her flight and goes to the house, and her mom, like my grandma, is like, oh, there's a nice boy coming to see you and all this kind of, she's like dead tired because she just flew from Italy to India. And so, but they're like, please do it. And my mom's like, do you like him? And my mom's like, yeah. Or her mom's like, my grandma's like, yeah, I think he's comes from a good family. He should be good. So she's like, if you want me to, I will. So they got her all dressed up and all that kind of stuff. My dad came over. They all went. So it was my mom, my dad, and then my mom's sister, my aunt, and her husband went to the beach. And so like they all went out, and then they let my mom and my dad go off and kind of talk. They talked for 4 hours about like what their vision for marriage is, what they're looking for, all that kind of stuff. Like, and then my mom was like, yeah, you fit what I'm looking for. My mom likes you. Yeah, I'll marry you. And so my dad extended his trip another week. They put in a newspaper because they couldn't print out like wedding invitations and all that because he had to go back. So they put it in a newspaper. Vinita Satish is getting married and all that kind of stuff. People showed up. They got married, and then a couple months later,
a week later?
Yeah.
They got married a week later?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then she came back. She came to the U.S. 2 months after.
Wow. And they did he was a citizen already.
He was. So back then it was a lot easier, right? You could sponsor and stuff. Yeah. He was in the citizen yet. He was a green card.
I see. And then because that's his wife, family reunification.
Exactly.
Damn. That's crazy. I don't know how my parents met.
I have no idea.
Yeah.
You don't either?
My mom was friends with my uncle, my dad's brother. And then that's how they met. But I don't know where. Probably here, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Because my mom was living in LA for how many years. Yeah, so I think that's how that happened, but I don't know.
Wow. You don't know?
I mean, when I asked, they didn't give any strict details.
Oh, okay.
I just knew they probably shouldn't have met.
Well, then you wouldn't have been born.
Life would have been way better for me.
Oh, boy.
That got real.
Wow.
That's nuts, though.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really big about, like, I'm annoying with my questions. Like, when I get one-on-one time with my dad, I'm asking him all kinds of stuff about them growing up. Because to me, it's so, like, interesting because I can't imagine doing what they did. Like, I can't imagine my dad coming here without knowing anything about this culture and creating the life that he's been able to create. I'm from this culture, and I still can't create the freaking life that he's been able to create. You know what I mean? So for them to be able to do that is so interesting to me. And then I'm looking at my mom like, yo, you made this decision off of four hours, and then you moved your whole life to live with a stranger. You've known this dude for a week.
Yeah.
And now you're with no family around, no way to get back. You know what I mean? Like,
and she probably ended up really like, dude, I really like this guy.
Yeah.
Because you know how some like,
well, you just have to at that point.
You have to, but there's some people who are just like, well, I'm here. Like, I don't have any other options.
Right.
She probably ended up being like, I made a great decision.
Oh no, for sure. Like, I believe that if they would have just met each other randomly on the street and did it out of love, they're perfect for each other. They're each other's soulmates. Like, there's no doubt in my mind. And it doesn't always work out like that with arranged marriages, but for them, it definitely, like, they're perfect for each other. I can't see them
divorced.
Huh?
You can get divorced though?
Now they do. Now people do.
No, but I mean back.
Nah, that's what I'm saying. Back then, it didn't always work out that way. There's some miserable relationships that are only centered around the kids. When the kids leave, it's like, it's very non-happy. It's kind of just routine.
I'm not going to connect the two, but it makes me think about something. So when we were in Alaska, we heard these stories about people in the villages. And of course, I wanted to go see the villages, but they're far away and whatnot. But when we had asked, some of the responses of the people were like immediate, like, oh, rough, you know, like tough. And
like their lifestyle or what?
Yeah, because they're not living the way that we live. They're not like Some may have internet, some may not.
Right.
Some don't. Like most of them don't have like police presence and stuff like that. So it makes things difficult, I imagine, especially for women, because violence and blah blah blah. And I just think about those like relationships that have no like governing power that oversees it. You know, because in the United States, that's domestic abuse, or at least in the lower 48.
Lower 48 was in the top 2.
Okay.
That's everywhere we went. Right. So down in the lower 48, it's a lot different, huh?
Yeah.
Oh, that's the part they get up.
Yeah.
So Hawaii,
we're the top 2.
So Hawaii is like they're like
They
Hawaii,
used to do that,
but
but they also I remember in Hawaii they used to say like the mainland.
Yeah, I thought it was more mainland. Yeah,
but I did hear the lower 48 as well. But I think because they're kind of low too. On the map, you know. Right. But it made me think about that. Like, imagine being in an arranged marriage. You can't get out of it. You indentured yourself to this man,
right?
That you can't. That like you never know what he's going to do to you.
Yeah.
And then also you can't work. It's almost like being in the 1910s, like in America, where that's why women get alimony and all that kind of stuff that was created for them, because they could leave a marriage for 15 years, have no work experience, no nothing, and then it's like, oh, well, now you got to go.
Right.
I'm with a 19-year-old.
Yeah. Nice callback. Yeah, and I mean, I would say that a lot of that happens a lot. Even in my family, I know of marriages with aunts and uncles and stuff that isn't very happy, and they're just have to, like, it's just kind of, you're just in there, that's all you know type of thing. There isn't this whole like go out and find better. It's kind of just that generation. I wouldn't even say just in the culture, maybe it's cultural, but I think the generation is just like grass is greener where you water it. It's not like go find a greener patch type of thing. It's like, this is what you do, you just work on it, you figure it out, and you adapt. But I think there's pros and cons, because we talked about on a previous episode, why are people taking so long to get married now? I think part of it is because like we don't have that same ability to just make something work. We're real quick to just jump and be like, oh, this didn't work, go on to the next one. Whereas if you listen to, there's always these interviews on the internet of like people that have been together for like 50, 60 years. They're like 80, 90 years old. And if you listen to what their advice is, it's always like, be nice to each other and, just figure it out. Communicate, work it out.
But you also have to remember too, in the 1950s, if homegirl didn't have food on the stove when the man came home, he probably, he was gonna give her a
could be, but I think
nugget.
I think yeah. I mean, obviously that's a stereotype, but I also think men were men back then too. Like they understood that they needed to go out there and
hunt.
Yeah, you had responsibilities. Like it would also be, the man wouldn't eat so that his kids could eat. You've seen that, like Cinderella Man and all that kind of stuff. Like you make sure the kids eat, you make sure your wife eats, and then you eat last, kind of thing, right? I think there's a lot of different like traditional things, and I think people kind of pick and choose what they want to do. But but going back to the arranged marriages, I think there's some value in it. Yeah, but it's not for me.
What if they did arrange you with somebody and like it could be great?
It could, but I don't think that my parents know who I am.
Damn.
So I think that becomes tough, right? And also I think their view of me isn't necessarily the best. So like I don't think that they think I deserve like
a great girl.
Yeah. Like when I remember when I've only told them about a few relationships, and like one of them didn't work out, and they were like, what did you do? It wasn't like, why did it work out? It was like, what did you do? It's like, okay, I know what you guys think about me, kind of thing.
Yeah. I got one parent like that. The other one is just like, that girl was trash anyways.
That's good though.
Yeah. Yeah. So
how's your mom feel about you? How do you think her view of you is?
I'm the salt of the earth. My mom, it's just been me and my mom. My mom's like, I'm an only child. My mom's the youngest of 5. It's always just been me and her living in like my aunt's houses because we couldn't afford a lot going up, so we lived with them. So I could like do nothing.
That's awesome. I mean?
So, but I like talk to her and like get advice and stuff like that. She's like, listen, you just do you. You're doing good. Keep it going. Yeah, cool. That's fine.
never gives you constructive criticism?
No.
Do you think that your mom knows you in a way that you, obviously I know you're in a relationship and you know she's great, but like let's say you weren't, do you think your mom could pick out the right partner for you?
Probably not. I don't know.
No.
I think she has this like picture of me like just at a certain age, like now, like I don't think she'd be able to.
No.
But I'm sure she could call.
Yeah, she still thinks you're like she still thinks you're the 9-year-old version of Chris.
Yeah, exactly. So,
what do you think she would pick out? Like, pick a famous girl that you think your mom would be like, oh, that one's nice.
probably my childhood crushes like Hillary Duff.
Yeah,
stuff like that.
She'd be cool with you.
Still like Hillary Duff.
So she knows.
Maybe she does know my type.
Yeah. Maybe you haven't changed much since you were 9 years old.
Yeah. All right.
What about you? I know you said, you know, obviously, who out of your dad and mom do you think would be closest to finding? Neither.
But if it was a photo finish race, my mom would probably get it. But she stereotypes me hard.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not going to say what she thinks I like because then y'all going to say that that's what I like.
You know,
so she's right. So she knows what you like.
Okay. And it's only because I trained her that way, but I overtrained her.
You out here trying to throw shade on mom. Mom knows exactly the type of woman you are.
So, because when my parents was trying to hook me up, they were like, you can't be 28 and single because that means you're batting for the other team. And I was like, that's not what it means at all. Wow. But so my dad tried to hook me up with a doctor. And she also looked like she needed a doctor herself.
Oh no!
I'd never seen nothing like that before. And
what way?
I don't want to get into those.
Why not? Nobody knows.
But yeah, because she. And then she was also. So
that sucks because I don't know anything that you just said.
Neither do the people.
Yes.
But I remember going back to my dad and I was like, "Would you date this?" And he was like, well, she has a great family. Her parents are doctors. I said, no, but you got to look at this every day.
Yeah.
Would you date this? And he was like, well, I know she's not attractive, but like she has a great job. And I was like, why would you give me this?
Yeah.
Like, why? You know, I don't want a nice girl. I want a nice girl that looks nice too.
Right.
You know, you can't leave one out. Because I'm not waking up to something I don't want to wake up next to. You know what I mean? Like, I'd rather just be by myself.
Right.
Even though that's shallow. But.
Nah, that's the same thing with me. Like, every girl that my mom would bring, I'm like, I kind of felt offended.
Yeah.
I was like.
Why would you think that?
I was like, what do you think I look like?
It's like when Hinge says, you'd be perfect with this zoo animal. Like, wait a minute.
Oh, my God.
I've never had that.
I'd be offended by Hinge. I'd be like, why do you think
offended by
like
you?
That?
Oh, my God. I'm glad you don't run
but I remember, and then it plays into the thing that my mom's like, see, you're so vain. You're so arrogant. You're so cocky. I'm like, damned if you did, damned if you don't. Like,
that's
you know
the thing that, like, y'all can't say that because y'all giving me somebody that you know gonna have heart disease.
Right.
Like,
she was a big
difference.
It's not just that they're big, but it's like some of them, like, come on, yo.
Right.
Like, but he would admit it. He would be like, I know this is not a pretty person. I know it's not. My mom don't really play it like that. But she goes too, like she used to. Like in the past, she used to be like, but that's a nice girl. Looks like she has good credit. As long as you got money, my mom was like, you good.
Yeah.
Like, but now she's like, well, my son only likes girls with real hair, you know, and like stuff like that. And I'm like, Mom, I could do a wig once in a while.
Right.
I just don't like the smell of them. You know, some of them, they don't maintain them well.
That's true.
You know, but like, she kind of gets it more now, but she only serves me up that, and I'm actually a pretty diverse guy.
Yeah, you are. I'd say you are.
I can date almost any race. Like,
but
there's only one thing I really look at, and it's mainly if you have good teeth.
That is true. The teeth is your thing.
But I also think when our parents are picking them, they're gonna pick that like
lineage people.
What's it called? The Venn diagram. They're gonna put our circle and their circle, and they're gonna try to pick something that's like in the middle. So it's
but
always
the middle's
gonna be
real small.
Yeah, you're right.
And the middle actually leans.
It always leans to their circle for sure.
The only thing in the middle says alive.
Yeah.
All right.
But it's funny because like like I think part of why my parents have such like a bad image of me is because of the way I react whenever they send me people. I'm like, yo, because I do probably come off real like, because it's like, you don't know the person. You only get to see the picture first, right? Yeah. Then you get all what we call biodata. So, which is kind of like the resume. You get to see what they wear. Yeah, okay. Biodata. So, so the first thing you're looking at, you're not reading through the CV. You're looking at the picture, and you're just like,
come on now.
Dang. But I don't think our parents are thinking about the attraction. They're thinking about like
partnership.
Exactly.
Are you guys going to be financially secure?
Right.
And it's like,
which is all important.
It is.
So I don't want to knock that, because there's a reason why those type of marriages work, because they are looking at, but I think they grew up not necessarily needing the physical attraction. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't as important. Whereas now, you know, there is that. And then, you know, there's obviously sex involved and all this kind of stuff. It's like,
and it's not just for procreation.
Yeah.
You know, I know me. Like, I could be very bad for a woman if I'm not attracted to her. Because, like, I'm never going to touch you. I'm going to sit very far away. And I get the ick, too. Like, I don't know if I'm supposed to or not, but, like, there's some people that I'm just like, oh, I can't imagine me doing anything.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, you would be cool with them if they were friends, but if there's like
homie.
something romantic, then it's like,
yeah, no, it gives me like chills. Yeah. You know, there's some of that, and it's not somebody who's like ugly, but they just may not be
just not your type.
Yeah, my type, and I get that. Like, so whenever they send me people, I get the like, she's a doctor, and it's like, cool, she can save my life any day. But like, how you gonna come on? I mean, how you gonna like do me like that?
I'm offended,
you know. But I respond with kindness. That's why they keep sending people my way.
Yeah, my parents gave up.
Oh no, I don't do none of that. I don't do nothing disrespectful. I just say like, hey y'all, that is not my type. I appreciate you looking out for me, but I'm gay.
So now they're just sending you dudes or what?
No, they're sending me to camp next month.
Right. Sending you Bibles is what it is.
Nah, Chris really did it right though. He said, "Let me get hitched real young," and like, hitched. Well, I mean, like you've been with the same girl since you were like 12, so like your mom never had to.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You never needed the training.
Yeah,
but you know. I don't know. I think eventually I want to get on Chris's level, but it's very hard these days, I think. Yeah. I think it's really hard these days because especially in LA. I don't know how y'all doing in, you know, Bumbletown, Texas and whatnot, but in these big cities where people are moving fast and the dating scene is like kind of toxic-ish, it's hard to look at somebody and like think of the future. You know, you kind of, and if you do, it don't feel that good.
It's such a full contact sport out here. Yeah. Like you really have to have your guards up, and they have their guards up.
Yeah.
Like
so nobody's moving that.
Yeah, it's so like tough. It's like you're paying for other people's sins. They're paying for other people. You know what I mean? It's just like,
especially at our age. Too.
Yeah. I mean, and I'm sure I'm a train wreck too. Like I'm sure they're thinking the same thing about me. It is really, really tough where I think people want a certain thing, but aren't willing to, not necessarily aren't willing to, but it's like, we're doing it the wrong way.
So my 8th grade teacher, and I apologize to the girl I called a zoo animal. I just,
you think she knows it's you?
Just want to put that out there.
There's like a lot of girls you said your parents sent you, and you're like,
oh, well, I was talking about the one on Hinge.
Oh,
for sure.
Nice girl.
Did you guys match?
Oh no.
So how the fuck would she know?
We got fans all around the world. So, but maybe we did.
Maybe we did go on 3-4 dates. Maybe she was perfect for me.
Maybe I was in love for whatever. But what was I about to say?
You were talking about. We were talking about.
Whatever.
Yeah, okay. Matches. We were talking.
My 8th grade teacher.
Yeah, 8th grade teacher.
So, I think social media really ruined relationships, and here's why. And I think I had this conversation somewhere recently, but I think about it in the sense of Democrats and their idea of progressiveness. Okay, and I think there was a period of time where our idea of progression made sense. Hey, yo, black people shouldn't be slaves. Cool, let's progress out of that.
Right.
And everybody's like one, right? Then it's like, hey, women need X, Y, and Z if you divorce them. Cool, we've progressed beyond that. And then you just keep progressing until you hit a place where everything like feels good. So you can probably ask somebody, what was the best time period of the United States? It's like the 90s, maybe the early 2000s, or maybe like slightly before that, because everything kind of felt like we progressed to the point where everybody's happy. Everybody's happy. And then you progress more and more, and then it gets like into a regression. And today you would ask people like, how do you feel about the United States? They would probably have a negative response.
Yeah.
I think the same thing happened to dating, where like so much conversation and information came out, and it made you wonder about your tactics, right? Like, not only is there people talking about what they do in their relationship, making your relationship feel and or seem inadequate or unfinished or just not right, and then now you start tinkering with it and messing with it, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh well, this thing that we had now became complicated. You know, the simple is now complicated. And then now there's so much of it out there, I think it messes with people's minds. Yeah. Especially with the amount of options that it seems like you have, you know? So I think about that because my 8th grade teacher, Miss D, she told us, if you're dating a woman and you guys are arguing in the dating forum, y'all need to end it. And she said that because if you don't have any bills together, if you don't have any kids together, if you're not living together, if you're not sharing finances, like your lives are completely separate. The only things you guys have to do is spend time together, and you can't even do that. You got to argue and fight and then that's only going to get worse in time, because that should be the best moments, the best times of your relationship.
Wow, that's great advice.
That's what she told us when we were in the 8th grade, because I don't know who was in some relationship where they was arguing outside of class, and she was like, you don't need to do this.
This is the easy part.
That's the easiest part. There's no kids. There's nothing involved. Just be happy together.
Right.
And I think about that in my current relationships, like how I view them, and I'm always like, I want to find a way to make it so simple to just say, I enjoy spending time with you, and I just want to talk about the future. If we talk about the future and it leads to us finding common ground, finding commonality, and it's all good, we saw smiles, it's laughter, it's love, and we see things foundationally in the same way, then we should progress. But things somehow, some way, always get more confusing than they get simple. And simplicity is what we should be aiming for, right? Because it really ain't that complicated.
I think that's why relationships work more in the previous generations than they do now. It's there too many options, and like I think, and once again, this is coming from somebody who hasn't had a successful relationship, so who knows? But I think so much people are looking for entertainment instead of, and I don't think being in a healthy relationship is that entertaining. I think it's kind of routine. It's kind of like, I'm not saying it's not fun, but I don't think it's constant entertainment. And when you look at like people that give dating advice, when you look at like these like manosphere shows or these feminist shows or like all that kind of stuff, it's all entertainment. It's like, and I don't think it's that. I think it is going to feel boring at times. It is more just like, you know, not every day is going to be like a roller coaster. Like the ups may not be as high and the downs shouldn't be as low. You know, there's some kind of more in the middle, and I don't think most people are like ready for that. I think they're used to, or they're presented that it's supposed to be, and it couldn't not only be social media. I think it's entertainment, movies, TV shows, all this kind of stuff. Yeah, it was never like there was never an episode where, you know, like Ross and Rachel were just cool. It was like Ross and Rachel were like, are we on a break? Are we fighting? Like, am I jealous of this person? All this kind of stuff. But that's for entertainment. But now entertainment has seeped into what we think real relationships are going to be, because you've been taught this subconsciously throughout watching these TV shows and watching these movies and all this kind of stuff. There's not just a movie of just a healthy relationship. Like, that's boring.
Because you know what, though? I remember watching those 90s black shows. and it was always like a healthy relationship. Uncle Phil and Aunt Viv, healthy relationship. Carl and Harriet, healthy relationship. Like, it was always like that.
Yeah.
And the only time you would hear it was slightly different would be like from the rappers, you know, who were trying to showcase like this fabulous lifestyle that's like, you know, bigger than life. And I heard somebody talk about, I'm a call it city girl type music, but I'm not coming at y'all city girls, but I'm just saying that type of music. And I say that because a lot of people kind of identify under this umbrella.
Yeah.
But like, they make this music that is like single girl music, like single pretty girl music.
Right. Hot girl.
Hot girl music type of stuff. But all those women are like searching for stability and relationships, stability and love and like acceptance and all that kind of stuff. But they're like preaching the opposite in their music. And then now we have all these people who like maybe adopting those principles, and they're realizing like, this is really not the way. It doesn't feel good. It might feel good in the moment. It might feel good while you're like having a hot girl summer or whatever, which I feel like you can do multiple different ways. It doesn't always have to involve having like 10 men that pay all your bills and blah, blah, blah. Like, it could just be a time where you have fun with your friends or have fun with your man or whatever. Because to me, I like occasionally have these like visions, like not a vision of the future, but like a memory, but it like burns in my brain as a vision of like incredible times you've had and or how it could have been better or worse around someone else. You know what I mean? And like, you see that I like to go on trips and do all that kind of stuff. And even though sometimes it may be a little difficult to do with many friends or whatever, you still have those incredible moments that you can talk about later on in the future because you shared it with people that you actually care about and that you like. And now you have that like in your heart, like you have it in your mind, and it's important, you know. And that's one of the reasons why I'm actually a big fan of like taking pictures and videos of a lot of things that I do. I know like some people find it kind of like odd, but
memories.
Yeah, like I really do be going back to my phone.
Me too.
Back into like 2009, 2010, and just like I remember these things and they're important to me.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I would definitely just say to anybody who's out there who's like not sure about the value of good, honest, hardworking relationships, like things that you have to put effort in to make them make sense. I've come to realize in my young age of 24 that
he's talking about good, honest relationships, and then said, and then started talking about just straight lies. But let's go on.
I'm 20 years ago.
Chris think because he's under 30, he's young.
Yeah,
I'm almost there.
You know, but like, I definitely was in that category of like, I just want to just have fun and whatever. But like, the memories hit different when you're like, man, I really cared about this person. I had a good time. And it may not always be like a romantic relationship. It could be a good friend.
Right.
But it matters.
There's some kind of extra level of happiness when you're like, when not you necessarily give yourself to someone, but it's just like, there's like a level of depth there that I think, like, I think I'm pretty happy and content on my own.
Yeah.
So like I personally think if I'm never in a relationship, I'll be fine. Like I still travel, I still do this, I'll be fine. But I do think there's another level of happiness that I can't reach unless I'm in a very secure, committed relationship. I think there's another level that I could reach that you can't unlock on your own. You can only unlock through a friendship, like a really good friendship, or through a relationship. And I think I know that without necessarily being in it, because I've seen it. Like I see, you know, happy couples, and I'm like, you know, that is something that I would want. I know that the work it takes to get to that point, though, isn't easy because there's only so much you can control. Like, you really got to find somebody that's looking for the same type of thing, but sees it as the same type of thing you see it as. Yeah. Right? Which I think is pretty difficult. And, you know, you made a point, like LA. I wonder if, like, I dated outside of LA, what my experience would be like.
I think it would be totally different. Like, when I went to DC, I was with one of my friends, and she said, I could never live in LA. I could never live in a big city. And that made me think, because, like, I'm from the same place. I'm from the same small town, and I feel like I can live anywhere. Mm-hmm. You know, you could plop me right down in wherever, and I would thrive. But when she said that, it made me think, because as she was telling me about, you know, a little tea and drama and whatever that's happening back home, I almost was like, I was like, this stuff really wouldn't happen in LA, because the town is so small. Everybody knows each other. And it's funny because she told me about this gorgeous girl that I went to high school with. She moved to New York to be a model. And I guess she couldn't make it or whatever. So she went back home, and she ended up just dating somebody we went to high school with. And it was just like that easy. You know, it's that easy to just be like, I'm back in my hometown. I'm familiar with this.
Right.
I'm familiar with these people. I'm familiar with this lifestyle. I could just be with somebody that I know already.
And maybe there's not as many distractions. There's not as many like complications. And we shouldn't put it just on LA. I think big city. I think big city dating versus outside, because I'm sure Miami's the same way. I'm sure New York's the same way. I'm sure Frisco's the same way. But like, I think there's a difference between big city dating and suburbs dating. Yeah. And I always feel like I'm a small town person in a big city, because I think my values, my morals, what I'm looking for are more like, not like, I don't care about a lot of the superficial stuff and all that kind of stuff. But, you know, out here to compete, you gotta be able to stun a little bit, and, you know, dates are expensive.
It really depends on the type of girls you're attracted.
I don't know. Maybe, but I don't know if it's always the girls that you're attracted to or the girls that you're attracted to that are in this pool, right? So like, maybe the same type of girls that I'd be attracted to that have a different background, like in the suburbs, would be different. You know what I mean? So it's like, that's where I think sometimes you run into different mentalities in the city, or different hurdles, right? Because maybe just as jaded as I am, they're jaded too, because they've dealt with a whole bunch of city boys that are just like, yeah, I just want to fuck, or I just want to be, you know, friends with benefits, or I just want to, like, you know, whatever. They don't treat them well. They're like, don't put in effort. They just like, how all their effort is trying to get to the fucking part versus like the courting part and the dating part. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Boy, is that rough. So would you leave LA?
I think about it all the time.
Just like your dad or like your mom, to go be with a girl who you think is worth it?
I think I'd leave Cali like altogether. I think about it all the time, bro. Like all the time. There's like, the only reason why I think I'm in Cali is family and because it's familiar. But like, it doesn't make sense. Like, I'm just, even something as simple as like, I'm going on like real estate sites to like look up houses and stuff. I'm just like,
man, I'm doing the same thing. I started doing distressed houses.
Trying to fix her upper?
Yeah, or not even that, just like bank owned properties.
Yeah.
Like, I'm trying to find a way to make it make sense. Because I told my mom how much I have in savings. And she was like, why don't you buy a house? And I was like, Mom, what are you, dumb? I need $200,000 to put a down payment. She was like, in Florida, you can get a big fat house with that. And it's like, oh. All right. Well, stop bragging,
right?
You know, and it's like,
and it's like significant. Like, I'm talking like out here, the cheapest house I was looking was like 600,000, 700,000.
Listen, I should open up my app right now because I know I got a notification. There is a 369 square foot condo for $660.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
$660
for 369 feet.
369. You talking about a rat hole?
This room.
Yeah.
Literally. Like, that's not gonna happen. And then they sent me an email that said, "Look, you can get up to $40,000 as for first time buyer." And it's like, what's that $40,000 gonna do? Right.
That's not even 5% of the down payment. Thanks for listening. If you like what you saw, please make sure to subscribe to us on Instagram at MOI Podcast. And please check us out on our YouTube channel by searching Men on the Internet Network.